WinZo, the real money gaming company WinZo, has posted a 70% jump in operational revenue to over 1,000 crores in FY24. This, remember, comes despite regulatory headwinds and the rollout of India's new GST regime for online gaming. Now, the company has also seen its adjusted profit after tax more than double to over 300 crores for the period from the previous 125 crores of profit in FY23. And to discuss what's driving this momentum at the company and how international markets are shaping up WinZo's growth and how the company is navigating and offsetting the challenges posed due to regulatory updates. We're now joined by Paavan Nanda, the co-founder of WinZo. Thank you very much, Paavan, for joining us here on ET Now.
Hello. Hi, Sumita. Thank you so much for having me at ET Now.
Hi. Yes, so let me first congratulate you on the stellar earnings that have been posted. What were the key drivers behind the stellar growth in FY24? Can you break down which business verticals or games contributed the most to revenue this year?
Thank you so much. I think the good wishes should be extended to, of course, the WinZo team as well as the entire ecosystem that WinZo sort of plays in. For our viewers, I would like to quickly summarize what WinZo does. So we are basically a multi-gaming social platform centered around mobile. Of course, being built 7 years back on the back of mobile revolution. We have about 250 million users. Consider us something where a single application has 100 plus games. So these games predominantly are made and built by third-party game developers. We work with close to 100 developers. Available in 16 different languages, predominantly organic and strong word of mouth led growth. Have about 250 million users in India and recently also gone live in Brazil. We also have a very large community of course, influencers, content creators who generate a lot of content about the product and help us distribute it. I think, what we've sort of managed with WinZo is a very unique business model. It's kind of I think an absolutely innovative approach to provide a gaming experience. Unlike going after one single game or one single title, we realized that if you have to solve for the Indian masses, the preferences, the opportunities of different games really vary. And what India requires is a single go-to gaming app, and every person can have their own favorite games, but that app will have their favorite game. So essentially will lead to a very strong stickiness in terms of retentions, in terms of monetizations. And I think it's a result of, this unique business model and the ecosystem, which is not just about making one game, but creating a platform where other developers will continue to enhance the quality of these games. Other, content creators will continue to improve upon the engagement. And of course, the product which is tailored for Bharat, for the masses, right? So it's an extremely affordable form of entertainment. People can play with as low as 2 rupees. And it's really about microtransactions, billions of microtransactions happening in a single month that eventually helps us stack our business to the numbers that you just mentioned. And that has essentially been what's been fueling our growth year over year.
Right, Paavan, so a couple of points stood out for me. First of all, diversification has been your key strategy. Then, of course, you also mentioned about unique business model. 250 million users is something that you spoke about. And, of course, affordability and diversification with respect to the gaming, the product as a whole. So we'll go over each of these points one by one. But let me ask you about your, active user base. How has that changed over the past 1 year? And have you seen more growth coming in from tier 2 and tier 3 cities? Or is your core audience still in metros?
I think it's a very good question and something that also truly differentiates us. When we started off WinZo, the idea was to make a product that works not just in India, but also in Bharat. So the tier 2 to tier 5 mindset, catering their entertainment needs, was of course at the center stage of it. And that's the reason why we, in fact, launched 16 different languages. We have a very strong vernacular play. Today, I will say 90% of our users actually are beyond tier 1 cities and belong to really small, cities, towns of the country where, the role of mobile actually takes a center stage in a person's entertainment life. Because, beyond large cities, with smaller towns where probably there are lack of as many entertainment facilities like movie halls or shopping malls or all those kind of physical infrastructure. Predominantly, a very large amount of a person's time and an entertainment budget is spent on mobile. And the idea was what to create a product that can enable them to play games and basically have a very strong personalized offering in terms of language, in terms of the kind of content that's there, in terms of the kind of games which are there. So the product is extremely casual and very versatile. You have all sorts of games, right, from carom, 8-ball, pool, Ludo, car race, whichever game you like, whichever game you know how to play. All these games have been played by the childhood, by all of us during our childhood in offline mode, are now being made available on WinZo to relive those memories and really cherish your entertainment time with these games.
All right. So another important point that you mentioned, Paavan, about the fact that you are delving deeper into vernacular languages, and that's what has also supported your growth. But let me talk to you about the Brazil expansion. What brought that about, and why did you choose Brazil as a geography, and what's the kind of traction that you've gotten in the country?
So it's early in the day since we launched Brazil only last year. But philosophically, from day zero, we wanted to make a big tech company out of India. And since we've built something truly unique and now that works well for India, and the way we've gone about solving India is also, solving every state as a different country, right? Different languages, different gaming preferences, different demographics. The idea is to now replicate this winning playbook that works well in India in such a diverse market like India and take it into other markets and eventually demonstrate the power of Indian innovation, Indian tech, Indian product, scalable technology into different geographies. Of course, taking one geography at a time. Why we decided with Brazil was because in a lot of manners, Brazil is very similar to India. The top games which are played in India are very similar to that of in Brazil. Time-rich audience. If you look at CPIs or monetization, some of those metrics are quite similar. It's just a country with a different language. People predominantly speak Portuguese there, but then you'll see from a consumption pattern perspective, there are a lot more similarities. And we wanted to launch in a country which is similar to India and then take it on from there.
Absolutely, and it's a great idea for Indian startups to actually be going global, and you are looking in that direction. But what is your plan of venturing into other geographies? Are you thinking of focusing on any other particular geography, or is your focus going to be largely on the India and Brazil markets?
I'll say our major focus is going to be, of course, in India market because it's again a very large. We all know the demographic dividends that India has to offer and the alpha that India has to offer from here on. We still have only 250 million users. The word only I can use only when we're talking about India as a market because the total potential of this market is probably close to be 1 billion users over 5 years to come, right? So only 25% of the user base is yet acquired in a sense. But outside that, we'll continue to expand in other markets. We don't want to spread too thin. We want to get it right, our international playbook. But I'm sure once our international playbook will be right, once we'll be able to crack open even one more market, we'll quickly try to ramp up into other geographies. The idea is to make a big tech out of the East, right? That's the whole point, to build a pure play consumer internet company from India, predominantly by Indian techies, Indian product folks, and demonstrate the power of Indian innovation and compete with the best entertainment and social media companies out there like Meta, Facebook, YouTube, Google, or whatnot.
Well, we do hope that you become successful in your pursuit. But let me talk to you, Paavan, now about regulatory challenges. The Indian gaming industry has been under regulatory scrutiny. How much has WinZo been impacted, particularly on the GST policy account? And have you been able to absorb that burden, or has that been passed on to the consumer?
So as far as the GST topic is concerned, of course, there's been a sharp uptick. There's a massive rise, which has led to a tectonic shift in the entire ecosystem in which we are operating. The numbers that we are discussing are FY24 numbers, and the new GST regime got kicked in from 1st October 2023. So only 6 months of impact can be seen in these numbers. FY25 numbers, once they'll be out for us as well as the entire industry, you will see a very different picture because that will demonstrate the full 12-month impact of the new GST regime. For our understanding and clarity, it's a 400% jump in the new GST regime. So of course, it's leading to a sharp cut in the company's margins. Marketing spends are low. At times, even revenue growth is slower. So I think FY25 numbers will demonstrate the full impact of new GST regime, but it's going to be fairly drastic once the numbers will be out.
So Paavan, when you say that the impact is going to be fairly drastic, and you talk about the fact that there's been a 400% rise in costs on the pressure that the company has faced, I want to get a number from you. Is there a number that you're anticipating or expecting on account of GST? How much is the company? What kind of a cost are you expecting to the company on account of GST?
Honestly, I think my estimate is the industry is right now paying maybe upwards of 50% of their revenues, in form of GST. When I say revenues, I mean net platform commissions, the commissions that most of the platform-based businesses take. Roughly 50% of that is going in the form of GSTs.
All right. In fact, that's quite a lot. And Paavan, there's been a lot of ambiguity around the legal status of certain online games in different states as well. So how are you ensuring that you remain compliant across all of these jurisdictions, and what kind of challenges is it presenting to the industry and, of course, to the company?
See, I think without getting into the specifics, because each challenge has its own nuances, I can tell you that we are a young fledgling industry. We are a very fast growing industry, which has a very large impact, right? I mean, if you're looking at 250 million users, 100 plus games, 1,000 crore plus revenues by just one player, which is WinZo. And there are, I'm sure, many other companies around. Each of these companies are 7 years, 8 years old. It's a relatively younger sector. And with any young sector, the clarity around regulations, could be taxations, is bound to happen, bound to come once sector scales. I'll say, this is not something very specific to gaming. Most I'll say, until there is no industry, there will not be any rules or regulations around it, right? Once only an industry gets formed, are these clarifications sorted, and some of them come with time. So we are quite, that way we are quite. It's quite understandable to be in this place, and we are quite hopeful that the industry is moving in the right direction. I think if we talk about WinZo, we are operating our business in an absolutely, fully compliant manner, in a very responsible manner. So I think, over times to come, over the next 2 to 3 years, you will see a lot of these companies graduating into becoming, from large private enterprises like we are today to probably public enterprises. For example, if I'll just give you, a note from an Indian gaming report that we recently released last week. The total valuation of all the top companies, gaming companies, once they hit public markets, is going to be cumulatively $26 billion, right? So that's a very large value of enterprise value that's going to get created out of
that's
them.
A humongous.
Eventually, that capital basically raised by large institutional investors will be redeployed back into the ecosystem. I think all in all, it's a very bullish sentiment.
That's a humongous number,
Paavan.
That's a humongous number, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So you're seeking regulatory clarity, but also very bullish on the gaming ecosystem as a whole in light of the fact that so many of these companies will hit the capital market. So I have to ask you that, when are you planning for an IPO?
I think it's we are a relatively young company. I'll say this stage, this platform right now would be slightly premature for us to share when we will be hitting the public markets, but definitely hopeful and hopeful for the good days to come, and a bunch of us to hit the public markets over the next 24 months.
All right. Paavan, one final question before we let you go. What's the growth roadmap that you have for the company this year, and which are the pockets of opportunity that you see that you can capitalize on and bank on for growth?
So there are three key growth avenues that we are looking at. One is, of course, to continue to aggressively grow in the Indian market, which is our home turf. From 250 million users, the idea is to cross 500 million users over the next 2 years. The second piece is international. We're already live in Brazil to hit the product market fit and eventually start scaling and replicating the India playbook there and eventually to newer geographies. So international is going to be the second focus area. And third, we are also now very actively going about investing in other opportunities, investing and acquiring as well. So we have earmarked a $50 million fund from which we'll be going about making inorganic initiatives as well, which will also add a leaf to our growth story.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, thank you very much for joining us. You have big plans for the company, including investing in different companies as well, and of course going international. And we'll have to see how that story of building for the world really plays out. But all the very best, and thank you once again for taking the time out and speaking with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's time for us to get into a break. But